game, parts of the game that you never thought about, and try to let people see that these guys are really.
Son opens a cardboard box in a garage in Missouri. Inside, wrapped in a plastic bag that has yellowed with age, is a leather playbook. The cover is cracked. The initials on the front are almost gone. J.M. He does not know yet what he is holding. He does not know that this small stack of paper once carried the weight of an entire dynasty. I said this months ago on this channel, and I am saying it again right now. The greatest quarterback of all time was never the strongest arm in the room. He was the calmest mind in the building. His name was Joe Montana. And this is the story nobody tells you at the trophy ceremony. Not the rings, not the highlight reel, the cost. Rewind with me. Dallas, Texas, New Year's Day, 1979. Ice is forming on the benches. Wind is cutting through padded uniforms.
Pretty hot stuff, and all of a sudden they get to Notre Dame, and there were I think there were 7 freshman quarterbacks.
Like they are made of paper. And in the visitors' locker room of a stadium hosting the Cotton Bowl, a Notre Dame quarterback is shaking so badly he cannot hold a cup. His body temperature is dropping. Trainers wrap him in blankets. Someone hands him chicken soup, and he drinks it with trembling hands while his team collapses without him on the field. 12, 19, 28, 34. Houston is up by 22 points in the fourth quarter. 22 points. There is no version of this game where Notre Dame wins. Ask any analyst in 1979, and they will tell you the same thing: it's over. Then the door opens. Montana walks back onto that field like the freezing bench never happened. No speech, no fist in the air, no screaming at his teammates, just a quiet nod. And somehow, in the final minutes of a game that should have already been decided, he starts erasing the deficit one snap at a time. A block
of our team that we put together with the magazine, and they talked me into it. Believe me,
well, it's not like it's a long.
A scramble there. A touchdown pass with darkness swallowing the stadium lights. Notre Dame ties it, then wins it, 35-34. They call it the chicken soup game. But what it really was a preview. A preview of a man who got colder on the inside the hotter everything got around him. Think about that for a second. Most people, when the walls close in, speed up. Their thoughts get louder. Their hands get shakier. Their decisions get worse. Montana was wired backwards. The louder the stadium got, the quieter his mind became. That is not something you can teach in a weekend camp. That is not something a playbook can install in a rookie. It either exists in a person, buried somewhere under the panic everyone else feels, or it doesn't. Stay with me, because what happened next is the part scouts still can't explain. The 1979 NFL draft comes around, and teams are lining up quarterbacks like they're picking from a catalog. Bigger arms, bigger frames, bigger names. Montana sits and sits and sits. Round 1 goes by. Round 2 goes by. 81 players get picked before a single team says his name. 81. Scouts wrote him off as undersized. Underpowered, A-system player who got lucky in the cold. San Francisco.
I'm a superstitious person. Every time before I go out, I have my rituals. Athletes, though, are supposed to be 10 times.
Takes him in the third round, and nobody in that draft room in 1979 is throwing a parade. They have no idea what they just picked up off the clearance rack. Somewhere in Pennsylvania, a young Joe Montana is watching that draft coverage with his own family, hearing name after name get called before his, and if he was angry, if he was embarrassed, if some part of him wanted to scream at the television, nobody outside that room ever saw it. That's the pattern already forming. Before the rings, before the fame, before anyone knew his name, store the anger. Show nothing. Wait for the snap. Because the coach waiting for him, a man named Bill Walsh, wasn't looking for a cannon arm. He was building an offense out of timing, precision, rhythm, a system where the ball leaves your hand before the receiver is even open, and you have to completely trust that he'll be standing there when it arrives. Most quarterbacks can't play that way. It requires giving up control in the exact moment your instincts scream to hold on tighter. Montana could do it in his sleep. 2 seasons pass. The 49ers start clicking, and by January of 1982, they're standing across from the Dallas Cowboys with a trip to the Super Bowl on the line. Fourth quarter. San Francisco down 6. 89 yards of frozen grass between Montana and history. 4 minutes and 54 seconds on the clock.
Defenses with long-distance dialing.
Starts moving the chains like he's got all day. Complete, complete, scramble, complete, third down, 6-yard line, less than a minute left. The play call sends one receiver toward the corner, he slips. The plan is already dead. Dallas defenders are closing in from every direction. A 300-pound lineman named Ed Jones has his arms stretched toward the sky like he's trying to physically block out the sun. Montana is drifting sideways, running out of field, running out of time, running out of room to even throw the ball away cleanly. This is where quarterbacks panic. This is where the ball sails out of bounds, or gets intercepted, or gets you sacked, and the season ends in silence. Instead, he lifts the ball. High, impossibly high. For one full second, it looks like a mistake. It looks like it's sailing into the crowd. 60,000 people hold their breath at the exact same moment. Announcers stop mid-sentence. Even his own bench doesn't know yet whether they just watched a miracle or a disaster. And then, at the back of the end zone, Dwight Clark leaves the ground. Fingertips, touchdown, Candlestick Park detonates. They call it the catch. But watch the film again slowly. Watch what Montana does with his feet, his eyes, his patience, in the 2 seconds before that ball leaves his hand. That's not luck. That's a man who learned in a freezing locker room 3 years earlier exactly how to think when everyone else stops being able to. San Francisco wins the Super Bowl. And here's the open question I want you sitting with for the next few minutes. How many championships do you think a system quarterback wins before people stop calling him a system quarterback? Because the answer is coming. And it's not what the scouts predicted. Subscribe now if you want the full answer to that, because what Montana does over the next decade rewrites the entire position.
Begin to conjure up his fabled magic, as Walsh gradually worked him into a starting role.
4 Super Bowl appearances, 4 Super Bowl wins, 11 touchdown passes on the sport's biggest stage, 0 interceptions. 0. Read that again. Not one throw to the wrong team in the 4 biggest games of his career across an entire decade. That is not an accident. That is a nervous system built different from everyone else on the field. And it shows up loudest in a game most fans still can't fully explain. Super Bowl 23. Cincinnati again. 3 minutes, 20 seconds left. 49ers down 3. Ball on their own 8-yard line. 92 yards standing between Montana and a third ring. Picture the huddle for a second. 11 grown men, some of them future Hall of Famers, all of them fighting the same rising panic. All of them trying not to let it show on their face because the cameras are right there, and so is history. That kind of silence has a weight to it. A whole season sitting on 11 sets of shoulders at once. And into that silence, Montana looks past the sideline into the stands and casually points out that actor John Candy is sitting in the crowd. That's it. That's the whole moment. No war speech. No chest thumping. Just a joke at the exact second an entire season is hanging by a thread. And it works because it tells his teammates something words never could. If their quarterback is relaxed enough to spot a movie star in section 104, then whatever is about to happen on this field is under control. Drive continues. Craig, Rice, Taylor, yard after yard, click by click, like a machine running exactly on schedule. 14-yard line, 39 seconds, touchdown, Taylor, 20-16. Championship number 3. But here's what nobody puts on the highlight reel, what that decade of greatness was quietly taking out of his body while the cameras stayed pointed at the scoreboard. This is the part of the story most people skip. Because legends don't just win, they pay for it. 1986, a back injury that required surgery serious enough that doctors weren't sure he'd ever suit up again. He came back. Then, in the 1990 NFC Championship, a defender named Leonard Marshall drove him into the ground from behind with a hit that damaged his throwing elbow so badly he didn't just miss a game. He missed the entire 1991 season. He missed almost all of 1992. And while Montana spent over a year rebuilding an arm that had once looked untouchable, the 49ers didn't wait around. They had a new quarterback. Younger, faster, electric, Steve Young. Here's the second thing I want you to sit with, because it's the part every athlete secretly fears the most: what happens when the team you built starts winning without you. This isn't just a football problem. It's a boardroom problem, a marriage problem, a parenting problem. The exact moment someone younger, hungrier, or simply less injured than you steps into the role you assumed was permanently yours. Every game Young won made Montana's return a little less necessary. Imagine that. Imagine rehabbing an elbow alone in a training room, throwing footballs into a net while, somewhere else in that same building, the team you gave a dynasty to is celebrating a win that doesn't need your name attached to it. Picture the room. Late afternoon, fluorescent lights humming overhead. A physical therapist counting reps out loud while Montana grips a light dumbbell like it's the heaviest object he's ever held. Down the hall, through a wall that suddenly feels a lot thicker than it used to, he can hear the muffled roar of teammates celebrating a win. His win, technically, his franchise, his locker room, still labeled with his number on the door. And he's not in it. He's in a quiet room, alone, doing the exact same boring rep for the 400th time, because the only way back onto that field is through months of nothing that will ever make a highlight reel. No cameras for this part, no commentary. Just the sound of a strap tightening, and a grown man deciding, quietly, that he isn't done yet. That's the version of Joe Montana nobody put on a poster. Montana came back for one Monday night in 1992, threw 2 touchdowns against Detroit, and for one half, it was 1989 again. But San Francisco had already made its decision. In 1993, they traded him. Joe Montana in a Kansas City Chiefs uniform. It looked wrong. It felt wrong. Like watching your favorite song get remixed by someone else's band. Reporters at the introductory press conference kept circling the same question, dressed up a dozen different ways. Is there anything left? He was 37, surgically repaired back, an elbow that had cost him 2 seasons. Every physical advantage he'd ever had was gone. Everyone assumed the system had made him, and now, without Walsh, without Rice, without San Francisco, we'd finally see the truth. Instead, Kansas City discovered that the one thing Montana never lost was the only thing that ever actually mattered. Wild card round, down late against Pittsburgh, he ties it, wins it in overtime. Next week against Houston, down 6 in the fourth 3 touchdown drives later, Kansas City wins by 8. First AFC championship appearance for that franchise in over 20 years. He never got that 5th ring. A concussion ended his run in that game. But he had already proven the only thing left to prove. The calm was never the uniforms. It was his. He retired in 1995, entered the Hall of Fame 5 years later. 4 Super Bowl rings, 3 Super Bowl MVPs, 0 interceptions in those 4 championship games. 8 Pro Bowls. Numbers that other quarterbacks have since matched, and in some cases passed. Tom Brady would eventually win more rings. Other arms would throw farther. Other legs would run faster. And yet, decades later, when a broadcast wants to describe the single coldest, most controlled mind to ever stand in a huddle with a season on the line, there's still only one name they reach for first. Not the strongest, not the fastest, not even statistically the most decorated anymore, just the calmest. But here's the gear shift, because the stat sheet was never the real story. The real story is sitting in that garage in Missouri, in a cracked leather playbook with 2 fading initials on the cover. Because a playbook can hold routes, it can hold protections, it can hold 100 different ways to attack a defense. What it cannot hold is the part that actually made him great. You can flip through every yellowed page in that box and never find it, because it was never written down anywhere. It lived somewhere else entirely, in the half-second before a throw, in the choice to stay still instead of running, in the decision to trust a receiver who hadn't even turned around yet. There was no diagram for staying still while Ed Jones tried to swallow the sky above him. No page in that book explaining how to point at a comedian in row 12 while your entire career sat balanced on the next 92 yards. No drill that teaches a man how to watch someone else win with the team he built and still show up the next year with the exact same expression on his face. That's the part I keep coming back to on this channel. Greatness isn't the absence of fear. It's function underneath it. It's the fourth quarter version of you showing up exactly on time, when the version of you from the first quarter has already quit. Think about how many people disappear the moment things get hard. How many quit in the second quarter, when the deficit is only 12 points and the game still feels winnable if someone else steps up. Montana's entire career is a rebuttal to that instinct. Down 22 on a frozen field, down 6 with under a minute left, down 3 with 92 yards standing between him and a legacy. Every single time, the response was identical. Not panic, not blame, just the next play. Most of us will never stand in a huddle with 60,000 people screaming our name. Most of us will never feel a 300-pound man closing in from our blind side, or hear an entire stadium go silent waiting to see if we just made a genius decision or the worst mistake of our life. But strip away the uniform, the stadium lights, the scoreboard. What's actually left is something almost embarrassingly ordinary. A person running out of time, running out of options, forced to decide in half a second whether they trust everything they've spent years building. That part isn't unique to football. That part is just being human under pressure. But everyone gets their own frozen bench in Dallas. Everyone eventually faces the moment where the plan collapses, the body is tired, and somebody younger is already warming up to take the job you built your whole identity around. The question Montana's career leaves behind isn't who the greatest quarterback ever was. It's simpler, and it's meaner than that. When your own fourth quarter arrives, will you look for someone to blame, or will you just find the next play? If this breakdown hit different, hit subscribe, because next week we're going inside the 149ers locker room conversation that almost never made it to the cameras. Drop a comment with the number 16 if you were alive to see the catch happen live. And if you want the full, uncut story with footage this channel dug up nobody else is showing you, the next video is already waiting right there on your screen. The grandson closes the playbook. He doesn't know every route inside it. He doesn't know every name on every page. But he knows enough to understand one thing before he puts it back in the box. Some men get remembered for how loud they were. Some get remembered for the trophies stacked on a shelf, gathering dust in a room nobody visits anymore. Joe Montana will be remembered for something quieter than all of that. Something that doesn't fit neatly inside a display case or a highlight reel. He will be remembered for how calm he stayed while everything around him was falling apart. For the freezing bench in Dallas. For the 92 yards in Miami. For the quiet room where nobody was watching, and he decided to keep going anyway. That's the real inheritance sitting in that cardboard box. Not the playbook, not the initials on the cover. The proof that composure can be built, one impossible fourth quarter at a time.